Welcome back to another episode, my lords, ladies, gentlemen, and any dogs watching from around the world. How you doing? It's been a moment. I hope you're all keeping well, and the build up to Christmas is going awesomely. Alvis is in. Lovely, lovely to see you, Alvis. Board. Everyone else, welcome, welcome. As always, guys. If you're watching live, join in. Feel free. It is an open forum. I mean, I'll only put the relevant comments on the screen, obviously, but they shouldn't preclude you from joining in or anything along those lines. Um, so yeah, welcome. Today's episode is pursuant to a number of things that have been going on, and a number of things that people have been talking to me about specifically today. And that's mainly connected again to why I'm a fan of the things that I'm a fan of. Right, I seem to have inadvertently developed this kind of um, impression or opinion that nothing bothers me, or I'm too detached, or whatever it is, all along those lines. And none of it's true. And none of it's true. And yet, everyone around me comes for advice, assistance, and that's part for the role. But it connects to at the minute. That's a relevant comment. I'm going to put that on. My dog said he's fine. Cat said he's jealous. Amazing. I like it. I mean, all the best for your dog then. But specifically because it seems to be a general consensus that people are of the opinion that the world is pretty shit at the minute. It's kind of stop the planet. I want to get off. Kind of an approach towards these things, and it's understandable, right? It's understandable, and this is why I'm of the opinion, and nothing more. It is an opinion that if you are a critical thinker to any degree, then there isn't an opportunity for ignorance being bliss for you. Because there is a continual degree of curiosity, or a continual degree of observation, or any other affiliated kind of synonym that connects towards this. But what we're really looking at, and don't get me wrong, when I say mental health in terms of the title, it's nothing therapeutic. It is more mental strength, mental resilience, right? If it is that the world, life, fate, whatever your current beliefs are currently giving you a beating, what tools and resources can we pull upon in a similar way to how Holmes did, in order to make sure our training doesn't suffer, in order to make sure our lives don't suffer as a result, as best as is possible? Because there is no way I'm going to be as arrogant enough to say, here is this one thing and it will solve all 8 billion of you. Because that simply isn't going to be the case. There is, however, a direct connection that we can draw between the practices of Stoicism around control and the Holmes practices in this area in terms of relevance, and how we can use these aspects to make our way through the swamp that exists in the day-to-day life. Right now, let's bring you back to that kind of question of emotional qualities being antagonistic to clear reasoning. Sure, right? You might not feel like you have any kind of a choice in what it is you're feeling, thinking, and doing, and getting involved in on a day-to-day basis as a result. But the reality of it is, 90% of the time, not an exact number, but 90% of the time, as an idea, you do, right? So if we look at some of the foundational qualities of Stoicism and its core principles when it comes to the nature of control, right? It's when I say control, it isn't control as in restriction. It's control as in a suggestion. It's control as in a riverbank controls where the river goes to. But if more water goes down it, it will change. It will flow and go in different directions. Sure. So it is like a suggestion, a guiding light, right? When you think of it this way. So it is control over emotions, but it's more influence over your emotions and focusing on what is within your power, right? And acceptance of what isn't. That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge. And if you were to look at the notion, oh God, I've just seen this on the other camera. My chair is coming to pieces. Oh no! Look at that. You probably can't see it on this camera, but there is a second one. I wonder if I can set it up. You don't care, but I do. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. Look at that. Dodgy. Anyway, control over emotions. And I'm again even more so than normal. I'm loath to talk about my fascination for Stoicism in a public forum, given the people that are kind of discussing it in the public forum as well, and I don't really want to be in the same boat. So, conversationally speaking, I'm not in the same boat realistically. But here we go. Uh, Stoicism teaches that managing emotions through rational thinking, as in by reevaluating irrational judgments, you can achieve emotional balance and clarity in your actions. Right. So it's like if somebody were to insult you, right? There was there, there was a comment on one of my videos I did on elementary a while back. Somebody apologizing, but skipping through all of the things that I was talking about as a result. It's one of those reacts videos. I put on a scene from elementary and break it all down. And it was, I'm really sorry, but why did you have to talk so much? And if you look at that, that's somebody complaining on the surface that I spoke too much, right? That I waffled on and on and on and on and on. And I could take that as an insult or some kind of personal attack, right? But if you apply the rationale within that, and so I take out my talking, they're just watching the episode, which doesn't make sense. You can watch the episodes on Amazon Prime. you know. So the control over over the emotions isn't control completely. It is influence, right? Because if you were to tackle a comment section where every comment is some kind of derogatory slur or some kind of insult based comment, it doesn't matter how rational you are, there is a tolerance level that exists within that, right? So your emotions will get too far. The emotional qualities are antagonistic to clear reasoning, but the qualities of emotion are not. So that's when it connects to the next stage in the Stoicism ladder. Focus on what you can control. Right? What's within your power in these situations? Your thoughts, your actions, your choices. And you can flippantly say, let go of concerns about external factors. Any external factors that you can't influence, right? Like the opinions of others or the outcomes of something. And you hear this a lot in terms of the training angle when it comes to this. Well, I'm scared to go out and confirm. All right. The rational approach to that tells us that there's either one of two things: either the fear is made up and it's some kind of personal projection, or you are going to inadvertently converse with somebody that doesn't want to be conversed with, say something that they don't like, do something that they don't want, and it's going to result in some kind of violent altercation. Applying the rationale to that, there's a number of things that you can control. I mean, I can't count the amount of times I've gone up to people to confirm some kind of hypothesis or observation I was making, and they've just told me to fuck off. But that's Stoke-on-Trent, right? That's not a reflection on me. It's a reflection on them. That's what I can control is me, my ability to get back on the proverbial horse and do it again 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 until my awareness of things that I can control broaden. and my acceptance of the things that I can't solidifies, right? The I think the Latin of it was amor fati or amor fati, fatty, AMORFATI. I've never been taught any kind of Latin, so this is just through reading it. I've no idea how to pronounce it, and it's the kind of I think it translates to the love of fate or something along those lines. But it's connecting towards embracing life as it unfolds, right? Acceptance doesn't mean resignation, but adapting to reality with grace, with openness, right? These are all virtues, bear in mind. You know, you can look at the Stoic properties of the four cardinal virtues, but that's a that's a discussion for another day. But you can look at as a challenge, as a potentiality for failure or an opportunity for growth. So then this all connects back to your mindset, right? I mean, a Stoic would promote things like journaling and the like. I hate journaling with a contemptuous passion, but anything that prepares you for resilience, for maintenance of this kind of inner control amidst life's unpredictability, right? If I were to detail how much stuff, like as an itemized list, I have going on, both personal, professional, and everything in between, on a day to day basis, it would make the average person's head blow up. Right? Does this make me better, worse, more competent, less competent? None of that. It just makes my ability to focus on what I can control stronger because I'm not looking at it as this monolithic beast that's going to beat me down. I'm looking at it for the little things that I can control and the little things that exist within there. And I'm taking these battles and I'm learning from the experience. That's all. That's all that exists within that. Oh, here we go. They also said that no one was a complete stoic, just like you said. No matter how rational you are, there might be a limit. Totally. Right? Totally. We are, annoyingly so, human. Right? We are human. You know, if you look at the kind of related concepts that come to observational work as your ability to maintain a a, 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 a control, let's call it a control rather than control, to maintain a control over your observational state and your ability to think rationally and clearly in moments that might stress others, um, a mindfulness exists in this area. And as much as I loathe, I genuinely, I've never read a decent book on mindfulness yet, and I've read a lot, and most of them kind of boil down to be more mindful. I don't really talk about how. I'm not saying that books like that don't exist. I've just never found one yet. Always open to the possibility because it's a uniquely beneficial practice when it comes to the state of mind that one would need to observe the world around us and read the kind of information that can give us deductive work, investigative work, and performative work, and so on and so forth. But there are resilience practices within that. I mean, even if you look at the notion of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and again, when it comes to the specifics of CBT, I don't have any qualifications on it. I'm just well read. Right, cards on the table. Um, if you look at mindfulness, Stoicism promotes present focused awareness. So you're encouraging individuals to observe thoughts, emotions without being controlled by them. Right? Emotional qualities are antagonistic to clear reasoning, but the qualities of emotion are not. Right? If I can recognize, this is what one of the facets of emotional granularity that Brene Brown and others like in that field are talking about. If I can recognize that I am annoyed rather than angry, there is a different degree of tactical approaches that I can take to resolving that within me to maintain focus. Right? Then you look at things like resilience. So if we emphasize control over one's response to challenges and accepting what can't be changed, there is a mental toughness that goes through that. Right? When you go to work out, do you accept that it is going to hurt on a relative scale? On a relative scale, right? Because there's nothing particularly comfortable about, you know, getting your pulse rate as high as it needs to be for you to start sweating, or nothing particularly comfortable about a body weight movement or a piece of free weights, right? I mean, it might feel good and the pump you get after it and all this other stuff, but in the moment you are essentially going through a bit of discomfort. The resilience built within that area for you to keep going through these workouts and keep seeing changes builds that contained mental toughness. All I'm saying is build it into other areas. When you're looking at a workout, there are definitively things you can control and definitively things that you can't. But it's not as emotionally prevalent as a situation where you're arguing or observing somebody else, or much more behaviorally based concerns because the inherent irrationality of emotion comes out, right? And then you look at CBT as a result, right? One of its core techniques of identifying and kind of reframing irrational thought parallels. It's adjacent towards Stoic practices of questioning and replacing unhelpful beliefs to cultivate rational and productive mindsets. Right? Like one of the things you hear all the time is things like um, my mum. Mum, I'm just in the middle of a podcast. Can I call you back? Okay, bye bye. My mother, ladies and gentlemen, prime for timing. Anyway, one of the things I hear a lot is things like I'm always wrong. Always? Every single time you try this, you're wrong. Always. Right? Now, even if we take away the emotion and they are always wrong all the time, there are workable bits there. But what happens a lot of the time is it's not always, they're just focusing on the moments where they're always wrong, which is cultivating an irrational belief. All you do is question the foundation of that irrationality to apply more control and therefore mental resilience. And like, do not get me wrong, a few simple questions aren't going to outthink an emotional situation, but it's going to give you the building blocks to help to start the process. Right? It's going to start the process. Here we go. Alvis has a question that's come in. Here's my two questions for later. Let's do them now. I have an idea for reading books that sounds cool, but I need your help. Okay? How to read books but turning it into a deduction or cold reading game. Well, that would depend upon the book you're reading as your tactic, but it's the same approach you can take to watching films or TV shows, however you choose to relax, right? Just stop at a certain point, pause it, put the book down, whatever it is, and think about where you are. Think about the process of the story or the investigation or the murder mystery or whatever it is that you're watching. Think about this process and plan it, work it through. Watch a bit more, read a bit more, get some more data. Does that validate, dismiss, or clarify where you are? We've been doing this for years, right? It's a great practice game. It's a great practice game. Anyway, so we're moving back to the stoic detective almost, right? Holmes embodies these ideals to a certain degree, focusing on facts and logic rather than emotional reactions, unless somebody's emotional reaction is a fact that he wants to remember or take with him. Has an inherent ability to maintain cool and calm under pressure, right? this mental resilience that exists within it. If somebody is screaming in your face, you'll get a lot of experience at this particular practice as a doorman. But if someone is screaming in your face, are you thinking about the volume and the emotion and the inherent fear that's coming with it? Or are you thinking about the breakdown points of de-escalating the situation, focusing on the things that matter rather than the things that doesn't, right? And right, you could say that he compartmentalizes emotions in order to solve problems effectively, but he compartmentalizes emotions to solve problems effectively, sure. But the compartmentalization of his emotion tends to run too far for the sake of story, to give him this um, almost tragedy in parts. I mean, especially nowadays when you look at the notion of his substance abuse. And Alvis's second question, in terms of deduction and cold reading, is related to board games. Yeah, I've got a few Sherlock Holmes board games that function along a similar line. Um, well, I mean, with the right amount of thinking, you can turn anything into a deduction game. If there are things that you don't currently know at the time that you're viewing something, take stock of the knowledge that you've got and figure it out. That's a very basic, thick nutshell approach to it. Right? Back to Holmes. Um, a master of objectivity, approaching problems by stripping away emotional interference and concentrating solely on evidence and reasoning. Right? If you look at the adventure of the Speckled Band, so you've got the mysterious death of I was going to say the stoner, Julia Stoner, I believe it was. There's Julia and Helen. I can never remember which way around it is. Um, it's either Julia Stoner that is the original victim and her sister Helen goes to consult Holmes, or it's Helen that's the original victim and it's Julia that goes to consult Holmes. I can never remember which way around it is. But there are emotional stakes for the girl in question that goes to consult Holmes, remaining focused, analytical. Tell me the things that matter, the important points, the physical clues in the Stoner household, the ventilator, the bell pull, all allowing him to find the solution that is deemed as an ingenious solution, but one could argue he's just found the solution. It's an emotional projection of its ingenious quality. Is it so ingenious because he could figure it out? It's certainly elegant and unique as approaches go to writing about murderous traits, right? There is an inherent Stoic connection to what is rational and observable, rather than the elements that are clouded by fear or anything theoretical or speculative, right? If you look at um, the Hound of the Baskervilles, the family curse involving the footprints of a gigantic hound, rather than be swayed by the kind of superstitious notion of these fears and the fears of others, he's dissecting the case with logic, right? Therefore, the trap comes in to expose the real murderer, maintaining focus through the eerie setting of the moor, right? There is a refusal to let fear dictate his action, trusting in reason to uncover the truth, even more so in the BBC episode, despite how much people kind of don't like it or, lament its differences um, compared to the original. Put that to one side. What's even more so in that particular iteration is his fear. He was scared, but that didn't matter. What can I control? You can control the knowledge that you know what your eyes are capable of seeing. I'm moving it through that way, right? This concept of focusing only what is within your control aligns with modern strategies for managing anxiety. I've just noticed my dog has shut herself in the kitchen. I don't know how she's done it, but she's not in here, and the door is closed. Not closed, shut. Um, Again, you're right, Elvis. Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock does that a lot for emotions too, a lot. But let's think about this. When faced with anxiety-provoking situations, right? This practice, it teaches you to direct your energy towards actions you can take rather than fixating on uncertainty or outcomes, which, if you look at the kind of, again, I'm going to sort of put it in a really thick nuclear bunker sized nutshell, bottling things up isn't healthy, be it physically or psychologically. So focusing on actions that you can take is ultimately going to be better for a more sustainable, resilient mental state. And good mental health isn't fixed, it's malleable, right? Because we're humans. If it was fixed, we'd be robots. Easier though that might be to live that way, right? If you're anxious about an upcoming job interview, you can focus on preparation, researching the company, practicing responses, things you can control, rather than worrying about, what the interviewer will think of you, what questions they'll ask you. These are things you don't know. These are things you don't have access to. Right? CBT is on for similar principles by encouraging individuals to identify and challenge anxious thoughts, replacing them with actionable, rational steps that can reduce stress. Right? It is like, oh, hang on. Yeah, it reminds you of the Mummy of Aliens episode of Psych, right? Apart from I would never encourage anybody to flick anyone else in the ears as a result. That's maybe a little too much fear about a lack of rational thought and emotion. Um, but like if you were to stop and think about everything that you can't control and really think about it, think of it. Just keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking of it. That's horrible. It's heartbreaking. It's terrifying. There's so much stuff that we could think about. That's the notion of anxiety in a nutshell. If you were to, like, if you could easily flick a switch and let go of concerns about external circumstances or events you can't influence, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional turmoil. That's the change. Emotional qualities are antagonistic to clear reasoning, but the qualities of emotion are not. Right? There was a quote from some fella. I forget who it. I heard it in a Darren Brown show, and Darren Brown mentioned who it was from. But it's always stuck with me. Um, you worry less what somebody thinks about you when you realise how often they seldom do. Right? Again, all of these things are very easy to say. Putting them into practice is hard. It's a challenge. Right? If you're worried about someone's opinion of you, this kind of mindset would encourage you to recognize that you can't control that. You can only control how you respond. Like if somebody were to call me a dick, okay? I don't think I'm being a dick. So it means this is my process, bear in mind. I don't think I'm being a dick, therefore I'm not insulted. But I can better understand your motivation for calling me that as a result because I'm not blindsided by my emotional state. I'm not blindsided by the fact that you think I'm a dick. Right? There is a thing that I stumbled across only recently, 12, 18 months maybe. I don't time all these things. I'm just from how dusty the books get after I read them. Um, Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. It focuses on acceptance of thoughts and feelings while teaching individuals to act in ways that are consistent with their values, even when something uncomfortable arises, right? It's a direct parallel from the Stoic principle of accepting what can't be changed and focusing on actions that can be controlled, right? A question that's come in: can you talk about being afraid of other people, mean bosses, co-workers that look down on you, right? So let's look at that. Um, from my position, Christ, I can't tell you the amount of people that have spoken about me behind my back, whether it be in the magic and mentalism industry, in this kind of behavioral industry, in everywhere, everywhere, right? But it will boil down to the same principle. The same principle. What are they saying to look down on you, right? There is a couple of things I heard from my daughter and from my niece, right? There is people looking down on her or them rather in one situation because it's cooler to buy food at the school rather than take a packed lunch. What? How, how does food or eating have a cool value attached to it? And then another thing as well, it's cooler to catch the bus than get a lift somewhere. Bear in mind the lift is free. I mean, like, is what they are saying in order to try and look down on you rational? Right? When I did the the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard videos, there was a lady that made an entire video trying to take me down, and you can Google it. It's YouTube it. It's still there. It's still there. And I turned a couple of her comments into sound effects. So let me play them for you.
Unless you're really ignorant or a child, you should probably know practically anybody can write a book.
Unless you're really ignorant or a child, practically anyone can write a book. Millie Bobby Brown was a child when she first started writing her books. They're out now. So children can write books too. And ignorant people can write books as well. Mein Kampf, the most obvious example. Pretty ignorant person, right? He wrote a book. Therefore, what you're saying is irrational. Her attempt was to try and say that my point is invalid because I said that I wrote a book. But in her words, she defeats her own point. Right? Next thing.
I know what a credible source is, and this is what a credible source.
I know what a credible source is, and this is what a credible source would say. She goes on to cite some of the work of Paul Ekman in microexpressions. Right? When, if you look at said credible source, it's never been allowed to be peer reviewed. Therefore, words gone.
It's really bugging me to look at his weird face.
She was going through the video I'd done at the time, and she paused on a face that I made, which was kind of like this. It was kind of like that, right? It's really bugging her. If I'm her saying this, it's really bugging me to look at his weird face, right? I might have a weird face to some. I don't have a weird face to my wife, therefore I don't care, right? So, in terms of that question, Elvis, if somebody's attempting to look down on you as a result, it comes back to it. What are they actually saying? Apply the rational connection to it, and I always imagine that I have to fight them, right? I mean, fighting them is definitively an action that you could take. Um, I wouldn't advise against it though. I would advise against it. I wouldn't advise that you do it. There's a Freudian slip. I mean, I've had more than my fair share of fights, more than my fair share. But in if again, if you look at it from fighting, no one wins, right? I mean, outside of boxing, UFC, anything that has rules, no one wins. So, what purpose is served in that scenario, right? We're cultivating emotional resilience by refocusing on action, right? If you look at that amor fati, or however it's pronounced, um, it's 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 embracing whatever happens in order to find the meaning while you're there, which you can only do if you're not looking through the cloud of this fear or emotion or past mistakes or whatever it is, right? If you've experienced a setback, failed project, missed deduction, right, cases going unsolved, whatever it is, are you stuck circling the drain, or are you focusing on what you can do? This is a similar connection towards memory, outside of a memory competition, obviously. But are you there saying to yourself, "I don't know it, I can't remember it, it's too much, it's too hard," or are you reframing what you can do? Right? I might not be able to recall it now, but I can find out. It'll come to me. These types of things, the actions that you can take. Both CBT and ACT encourage individuals to reframe negative thinking and focus on positive, value driven actions. This is what I'm saying in terms of good mental strength, resilience, control. All of these elements, when you build habits and behaviors around them, develop a sharper connection towards being able to maintain control over yourself in a situation that you need to perform deductively, in a situation that you need to perform observationally, or whatever it is in that particular. Hey, Pascal's here. Bonsoir, mon pote. Um, I know a lot of experts that doesn't have the 1/100th of your expertise and still critique other stuff. It's easier to critique others than being your own. Exactly. Right? Exactly. I mean, this is one of the behavioral practices that I put in decades ago. And I've said it many times on the podcast. I don't believe that experts exist. I don't believe that mastery exists. I don't. And I'm being specifically belief, because I can't know that mastery or expertise doesn't exist. I believe that because in the notion of stating that you're an expert or a master of something, you are saying to the world, I've stopped learning. I've stopped learning, which then by default means everyone else around you is more open than you because you've put your shields up, right? You've put your shields up. Oh, Pascal. God bless you, mate. God bless you. Listen, right? All this is to say, folks, that when we look at the actions that we can control, it has a knock-on effect. And I mean, there are knock-on effects to everything, but pursuant to the development of these particular skills, we need control over this. Over this. If you were going to perform anything observational level, cold read, deduction, anything along those lines, you need control over this because your canvas, your resource material are the people in front of you. And if you're not there to observe them because you're too obsessed with what they're thinking about you or the failure or the internalized projection of whatever else it is that you're seeing, every performance I've ever done, every one, right? I'm under lights or surrounded by people in a close up setting. And I am a large, hairy person in a suit. Therefore, I sweat There's a great line that I like from the birdcage. I'm sweating like some sort of farm animal, and it's always true. It's always true. I need guttering to kind of get rid of it. And in that scenario, I could think about, God, they're seeing some kind of sweaty, large, disgusting animal that's kind of connected to what it is. All I do is I address the fact that I'm warm and make a joke out of it. Done. Game over. Right? What can you control? Um, is that why Sherlock smokes to deduce better than cocoa? No. No, it isn't. The smoking is habitual and particular to the societal influences at the time. The cocaine was in there because the poetic license. And but let me backtrack a stage further. This is my opinion based on the stories. That the cocaine was in there for poetic license to illustrate how quick and active his mind was, that life held nothing for him, so he had to resort to artificial stimulants. There is that my mind rebels at stagnation. Give me problems, give me work, give me the most abstruse cryptogram, the most intricate analysis, and I am in my proper environment. Only then can I dispense with artificial stimulants. Right? We are fortunate enough to live in a different world where we can indulge this rational side of us all the time. All right. So if we were going to use one way to sum this up at all, focus on what you can control. It's going to make you sharper, more observant, and more open towards new data as it's presented to you, for you, with you. All right. So, as a side note, I my year 2 group will find out soon why I chose to do this. I didn't make any adverts. Everyone else is still welcome to join. You're all still welcome to join. You can contact me about it and get involved. But there is a reason why I haven't put the videos up. And yeah, I'm going to mention it to them on the first session. The first session is looking at Sunday the 8th of December, and then we go back to every Saturday. Scheduling thing. Don't forget to control your breath. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are many ways of doing it. Let me put that on the screen so people can see what I'm talking about. There are many ways of doing it. Box breathing, Qigong. I'm a big fan of Wim Hof's tactic. We want to keep it to ourselves. As well you should. As well you should, because it's no mean feat. But there is a reason why I've not advertised. And we have 2 new entrants this time that have joined. So we've got a good chunk of people in there, given the size of the work and the things that I'm asking of these wonderful humans that come to spend time with me every week. I sincerely hope that we will all be able to do it in person one day, because oh my God, that would be like I don't know, the halls of justice, Avengers Tower. Like 221B on steroids. It would be amazing. It would be amazing. But yeah, with that in mind, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you, because I I need to let my dog back in. She's stuck in the kitchen and the light's not on. So yeah, see you all later, folks. Take care.